Hello, my dear students of class 8. Hope you are all fantastic at home and you are continuing with your studies very seriously. That's why we are here to reach out with your problems. Now, today we shall discuss about chapter 5 from our social and political life, and the title of the chapter is Judiciary. But before that, before just jumping into the main topic, I would like to, rather to discuss about certain basic concepts of the democratic government. What are the main three organs of a democratic government? Let us see. Because frequently I have found when the classes were going on, I have found that some students were having the confusion. What about the confusion? Means what are the main three organs of a democratic government, and accordingly what were the functions, what were the responsibilities of those organs. So let us see what are the main three organs of a democratic government and what type of functions they are performing. Organs of a democratic government, I have written here, you see. So the first comes the legislative body or the legislature. Of course you have heard in the first chapter itself we have discussed about the central legislature of India. What was the question? The first question I asked you, that which is the central legislature of India? Of course the answer is Parliament. So what is the function? We have found some important responsibilities performed by the central legislature, that is Parliament. It is also called Samsad, isn't it? Hope you are getting the point. So the legislative body, what is the function? There are various functions we have discussed in the earlier chapters also. The first chapter itself we have found that what are the responsibilities of the Parliament, that is the central legislature. So the first responsibility I have written here, making laws. But other than these, many more responsibilities actually Parliament perform. What are those responsibilities? Yes, it is about the formation of the central government, making the central government, that is the primary responsibility of the Parliament. Then to control, guide and assist the government, and that is also one of the most important responsibility of the Parliament, that is the central legislature. And of course making laws is one of the most important responsibility of the Parliament, because it is called the legislature, no? So the term itself is related to making laws. So here comes the responsibility of the legislative body, the first and the foremost organ of any democratic government. Second comes the executive body. About whom we are talking about? Executive body. This body, this organization of the democratic government implements the law. Implementing authority is the executive body. Now this executive can be of various types. If we talk about the highest executive of our country, then whom will you consider? Yes, of course, the President. The President of India is the highest executive, and accordingly, of course, the Prime Minister, he is also the highest executive. They are the, we can say, political executive. There is other non-political executive also. Those who are the high-level government officials, they are the executive body. They are the implementing authority. Whatever laws are made by the legislative body, accordingly, the executive body work on those laws. Those new policies, plans and program, these are all done by the legislative body, and the next body is the executive body. They implement, they try to work on according to the laws made by the legislative body. And the third organ, that is the judiciary. Though we are calling it third organ, but actually this is one of the most important organ of a democratic country, because democracy can be completely successful when judiciary can perform its responsibilities independently. That is the main thing. So what is the responsibility of judiciary? Today we shall discuss in detail, of course, about this one. Okay, our main topic is judiciary today, no doubt. But what is the basic performance done by this judiciary? It is, I have written here in simple words, punish if breaking laws. What does it mean? See, I wanted to maintain a connectivity among these three organs. So legislative body making laws, executive body to implement the laws, and judiciary punish if breaking the laws. Okay, so that means I am trying to connect the three organs of a democratic government here. Of course, each and every organ has got many more responsibilities, but none is above the law. all the organizations, every body, every individual, maybe the highest executive also bound to follow the laws. That is the main point here. Okay. So initially we have found the basic organs of a democratic government, because this point should be very clear to us. Then only we can specifically discuss about the responsibilities of judiciary. Hope you are getting the point. So we have found the responsibilities of the legislative body. It may be the central legislature. There are state legislative bodies also. In every state there is legislative assembly. Hope you know. This is the state legislative body for every state. In some states there are legislative council also. So those are called bicameral legislature for states. Okay, there are only few states in our country where there are bicameral legislature. Means two houses are there in the state legislature. Then executive body, as I told you, there can be political executive, there can be non-political executive. All these members of the executive body, their main responsibility is to work on the laws or rules and regulations made by the legislative body. They are implementing the laws made in the legislative body. Okay, and judiciary, of course, it has got its own function. We shall discuss in detail about that. What is the main responsibility of the judiciary? Of course, it is about the establishment of law, rule of law, establishment of rule of law. You may have heard the term earlier also, we have discussed. See, while writing the Indian Constitution, the Constituent Assembly taken a lot of time, a longer duration it is taken by the Constituent Assembly for writing the Indian Constitution, because they have collected the constitutions from various countries and the best concepts, best ideas, philosophies, okay, taken from those constitutions. One such is rule of law. Okay, this concept is taken from the French Revolution. Hope you know. So what is rule of law? As we are discussing about that none of the organization, no single individual is above the law. Law is above all. He may be the highest executive of the nation, but still he has to follow the law. So here law means we want to mean the constitution basically, because all the laws, rules and regulations of the nation, how it will run, what are the everyday activities of the government, and all other matters are written clearly in the constitution. Our duties and responsibilities, our rights, everything is written clearly in the constitution. So constitution maintains its highest position in the nation. So how to establish this rule of law, and what is the role of judiciary here? Let us see. Actually, laws apply equally to all. The person may belong to any religion, any caste, community. His economic status may be anywhere in the society, a rich or the poor, a laborer or the industrialist, the President of India or a day laborer, whoever it is, whatever the social position the person belongs to, it doesn't matter, because laws apply equally to all. Laws apply equally to all the individuals, each and every person of the society. Now, for maintenance of this equality of law and rules, the crucial role is played by the judicial system. It is the mechanism of court by which this equality of law is implemented in practical sense. Okay, the crucial role of judiciary is very important here. So what type of role is judiciary playing here? That we shall find out in detail. Okay, another important thing, for maintenance of equality, for the establishment of rule of law, independence of judiciary is very important. This is also an important part of our discussion today. We shall discuss in detail later on. So how this independence of judiciary? Let us tell in brief here. Independence of judiciary is very important, and it can be maintained by the application of separation of power. As we have discussed earlier, the three organs of the democratic government, that is legislative body, executive body and judiciary body, they have got their own responsibilities. So in the constitution there is separation of power, means what type of responsibilities the legislative body will perform, these are clearly written in the constitution. Accordingly, the rules, the the policies to be adopted by the executive body, the role to be performed by the executive body, rather we say, and the judiciary is clearly explained, written in the constitution. So that way the policy of separation of power is implemented here, and that's why judiciary can function independently. Actually there are other aspects of independence of judiciary also, but initially separation of power is very, very important here. It's a crucial matter that independence of judiciary must be maintained, then only the rule of law can be established and equality of law can be maintained. Okay, now let us see in detail what are the roles performed by the judiciary in a democratic country. In detail we shall see now. What are the important responsibilities judiciary perform in our country? We shall find out now. Okay, hope you understood. And one important part here we have to remember that we know that India became republic on 26th January 1950, and on this very day the Indian constitution came into force. Means the Indian administration started running according to the constitution from this particular day, that is 26th January 1950. There is another date also before that, that is 26th November 1949. This was the day when constitution was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. So don't get confused with these two dates. One is the adaptation of the constitution by the Constituent Assembly, another one is the when the constitution came into force. The constitution actually came into force means the Indian administration started running according to the constitution from 26 January 1950. So that's why we celebrate Republic Day on this day, that is 26 January. Okay, and on the same day Supreme Court of India was established. So here can be a short question for you. You can write down in your copy. Okay, when was the Supreme Court of India, the highest court, that is the Apex Appellate Court also it is called, Apex Appellate Court of India, was established on 26th January 1950. This one also can be a short question for you from this chapter. Okay, now let us find out what are the major responsibilities performed by the judiciary in a democratic country. Okay, that is the role of judiciary. We shall divide into three broad categories the role of judiciary. The first one we shall say that is dispute resolution. Dispute resolution is the first and foremost responsibility of the judiciary in a democratic country. Dispute, what type of dispute? What is dispute? Dispute, it is conflict, clash, fighting among the people, contradiction of opinion. Now it may happen between two individuals, okay, person to person. Person to person dispute is possible. Sometimes it may happen that you are not coming to the same point with your friend regarding a discussion. Your friend has got a different view on a particular point than you. So there may be conflict. Sometimes you engage in fighting also. But as you are small, you finish up within few minutes your clashes, your fightings and all, isn't it? But sometimes the elderly ones, the elder people cannot finish it when there is any conflict, difference in opinion. They cannot finish it within a short period of time. Sometimes this goes in a bigger ground. Okay, they may fight among themselves and various types of complicated situation arises. So two persons can fight among themselves regarding any money matter, okay, transaction, business purpose or land disputes. Various types of conflicts are possible in our society. You are grown up enough to understand that various types of conflicts you can see frequently in our society. Okay, it may be in a family or in the society. Okay, so between two persons conflicts are possible. Now when two individuals are involved in a conflict and they cannot mitigate the matter, cannot solve the matter by themselves, then definitely it may go to the police, then it may go to the court. So that way the conflict between two persons become a major issue for the judiciary, because judiciary is there to solve this problem. Now the conflict is possible between a person and an organization. The conflict is possible between a person and between an organization. It may happen that suppose your house is adjacent to in any organization, it may be a government organization or a private organization, and somehow that organization is trying to access the land from your property, from your father's property. So there will be obviously a clash between that organization and your father or the person involved here. So that way, if they solve the problem by themselves, okay. If they cannot solve the problem, then of course they have to go to the police, then ultimately it will go to the court. So judiciary is there to solve the problem whenever there is any conflict between a person and an organization. Dispute may be possible between the person and between the state. Again, let us take the example of, say for example, the roadways will be constructed or the railways will be constructed adjacent to the house of a person. Now of course the government can acquire land wherever necessary, wherever the government needs can acquire the land, but there is a procedure. Okay, there is a system that how the land will be acquired. So if the government officials follow the proper procedure, then okay, but if they do not follow that, then of course there will be clash, there will be dispute between the person and the government. So again that problem can be solved by the judiciary. Dispute can be possible between two states. Between two states, disputes are possible. You may have heard about Kaveri Jala Vivad. In the previous class you have heard about, I am sure. So Kaveri Jala Vivad, why? Because two states, the river is flowing between two rivers and there is the problem of distribution of the river water. So if the states do not mitigate the problem, do not solve the problem by themselves, then of course judiciary is there to handle the matter regarding the distribution of water, river water between two states. So conflict, that is dispute, is possible between two states even. Dispute may be possible between the state government and the central government. It is quite possible that the conflict arises between the state government as well as with the central government. We know that there is distribution of power by means of three lists, that is called union list, central list, union list and central list the same, then state list or concurrent list. By these lists in the constitution, power is distributed between the central and the state government. But still there may be dispute regarding the power distribution, regarding the authorization of expenditure of money matters, or various issues may be there. Okay, so conflict is possible between a state government and the central government. So in that case, if they cannot solve their problem, then definitely there will be the judiciary to solve the matter. Hope you are getting the point, isn't it? So various types of disputes are possible between two persons, person to organization, then person to the state government, between two states, and even state government and central government. Hope you are getting the point. So any kind of dispute arises either between the persons or the central government or the state government. Judiciary is there to solve the problem. Hope you are getting the point. So this dispute resolution is the first and foremost responsibility of the judiciary. This way the judiciary is there to solve this problem. The second responsibility of the judiciary it is called judicial review. Judicial review. What is this judicial review? Let us see the matter. See, in the earlier discussion we have found the preamble of the Indian Constitution explains the very nature of the nation. What type of country India is, it is clearly explained in the preamble itself. Hope you can remember those 5 words which are written in bold. What are those words? If I would have asked this question in the class, then many of you could stand and answer me. So what are those words? Yes, of course, all of you know, that is, India is sovereign, secular, socialist, democratic, republic country. So these 5 words explain the nature of the nation, of our motherland India. Now it may happen that whenever the central legislature makes any kind of laws or rules or regulation which may harm the basic structure of the constitution, then of course judiciary is there, the Supreme Court is there to look after the matter. Are you getting the point? So the basic structure of the constitution can never be harmed by any new law made by the central legislature. So this is called judicial review. So to maintain, judicial review means to maintain the basic structure of the constitution. There are certain other parts of the constitution, say for example fundamental rights, which are very essential for us, then fundamental duties, directive principles. There are some parts of the constitution which are considered as the basic structure of the constitution. Indian constitution is the lengthiest constitution, most complicated constitution in the world, no doubt, but the preamble itself depicts the basic nature of the constitution as well as the nature of the nation. So if any new law when is on the making, on the process of making, because you know whenever any law is made, first it is presented as a bill in either of the houses of the parliament, either in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. It can be presented over there. So discussion will go over that, and whenever there is any possibility of making of any new law which is going to harm the basic structure of the constitution, then judiciary will not agree with the situation. Of course judiciary will not allow that bill to be passed as a law. So that is judicial review. It's a very important role of the judiciary to maintain the basic structure of the constitution. Now let us see the third important responsibility of the judiciary. What is the third important responsibility of the judiciary? Of course, upholding law, upholding laws and enforcing fundamental rights. This is the third important responsibility of the judiciary. Upholding law. See, in the initial stage of our discussion, what is said? Judiciary is there for the establishment of rule of law. None is above the law. Maybe the person is the highest executive of the nation, very rich, wealthy person, or the dominating personality of the society. Still, rule of law prevails here. Constitution is above all. None is above the law. So, upholding law and enforcing the fundamental right as well is the important responsibility of the judiciary. Now, how these fundamental rights are actually implemented by the judiciary? In our book, there is a discussion about one person, Hakim Sheikh. The person was traveling by a train and suddenly he fell down from the running train and was badly injured. He was badly injured because he fell from the running train, and he went to many hospitals where he did not get the proper treatment. Then West Bengal Khet Mujur Union was there, who protested against this, that why this person who fell from a running train are not getting proper treatment in the government hospitals. But the constitution guarantees right to life. Isn't it this situation directly related to the right to life according to the article number 21 of the Indian Constitution? Of course, the person has, if the constitution guarantees right to life according to the article number 21, then why this person is not getting proper facilities for treatment in the government hospitals. Then there was conflict between this Khet Muzur Union and the West Bengal government, and the court ordered the West Bengal government to provide all the facilities, all the medical facilities, compensation for the recovery of his health, this Hakim Sheikh, because the right to life is the most important one, and various other aspects are related to this. Even if a person is unable to earn his livelihood, then how the person will survive? Then right to life will become meaningless. So it is also the responsibility of the government that each and every person should earn their livelihood in proper manner. They should be allowed to earn their livelihood, of course in the proper manner, no doubt. There must not be any kind of bondage or any discrimination regarding this. So simply announcing right to life according to the article number 21 of the Indian Constitution is not enough. What are the other matters involved with this? That also have to look after, as in the case of Hakim Sheikh, because he was not getting the proper treatment in the government hospitals. That's why there was clash, there conflict between the Khet Muzur Union and the West Bengal government, and ultimately the court ordered the government to compensate for his medical treatment. So that way you can see here one of the most prominent role played by judiciary for enforcing fundamental right. That is very important. So till now we have seen three important responsibilities performed by the judiciary. In any democratic government, the judiciary organ has three important responsibilities. What are those three important responsibilities? First of all, to resolve the disputes. If there is any kind of dispute, it may be between two persons or any person and organization, or between the state governments or the state and central government, those can be resolved by the judiciary. So that is the first and foremost responsibility of the judiciary. Then what is the second responsibility we have found? Second important function of the judiciary that we have discussed? Yes, that is judicial review. What does the term judicial review means? Judicial review means whenever the central legislature or any legislative body tries to make any kind of laws which will harm, which will create problem with the basic structure of the constitution, then of course judiciary will not allow the legislative body to pass that bill as a law. That law will not be passed, or that law will not be implemented if it breaks the basic structure of the constitution. So that is judicial review. The judiciary has all the authorities to go through the bill, either there is any kind of matter which will dispute, which will create problem regarding the basic structure of the constitution or not. If it finds that okay, then only the bill can be passed into a law. So that is judicial review. And the third one, what we have found, it is upholding the law. Rule of law means establishment of the constitution above all. Constitution is above all. None is above the constitution. So rule of law must prevail there. That also to be looked after by the judiciary. And of course, implementation of fundamental rights, enforcing fundamental rights, because it is not enough that fundamental rights are written in the constitution. Those must be implemented, okay, enforced by the judiciary. Okay. So we have seen the major three, the prominent three responsibilities of the judiciary. Now we shall see the basic structure of the judiciary in Indian system. The basic three structure of the judiciary in India. Okay, structure of court. Structure of courts in India. It is shown in the form of a triangle, and three divisions are shown here. At the lowest level, there is district court, district court. Then in the second level there is high court, and at the highest level, that is called the apex level, there is Supreme Court. Supreme Court. Actually, the Indian judiciary is called the integrated judiciary system. What does this integrated judiciary system mean? Suppose whenever any person has gone to the district court because he is suffering from any kind of problem, means there is conflict between two persons and the person wants justice, so he has gone to the district court, but he may not be satisfied with the judgment given in the district court. Then what he will do? Of course he will appeal in the higher court, that is the high court. All of us we know that in all the states there is high court. The highest court of a state is the high court. Actually, the first three high courts were established in the major three cities, that is called the presidency cities. In the presidency cities of Bombay, then Calcutta and Madras. In all these three presidency cities, the first three high courts were established, and the high court, Delhi High Court, came into being in 1966 only. High Court of Delhi came into being in the year 1966. And earlier you have seen the establishment of Supreme Court was happened on 26th January 1950 itself, the day when India became republic. But the first three high courts were established in the presidency cities of Bombay, Calcutta and Madras. Then gradually the other high courts established in many states, high courts established gradually. In our state Tripura, high court was established in the year 2013. In the year 2013, high court in our state was established. Earlier, all the cases related to the high court matters were handled by the Guwahati High Court, all of you know. So this is the establishment of high court in every state, and at the apex level, at the highest level, there is the Supreme Court. All of you know, the person who has gone to the district court and not satisfied with the judgment given by the district court, of course he can appeal to the higher court, that is the high court, that is the highest court in the state, and gradually he can go for the Supreme Court's judgment also. So this system, this is called the integrated judiciary system, and the lower courts must maintain the dignity of the Supreme Court, the judgment given by the Supreme Court also to be followed by the lower courts. So that way the process goes on here in our country. That is called the integrated judiciary. Are you getting the point? Even at the lowermost level, in the village panchayats are there is Nyaya Panchayat system, that is also a part of the judiciary, no doubt. So whenever there is any dispute in the village level, those can be settled by the Nyaya Panchayat also. But if the persons are not satisfied, then of course they can go to the higher court, that is the district court, then high court, then Supreme Court, like that. So gradually there is the system of gradual development, not simply suddenly first only the person can go to the Supreme Court for appealing. So that is the system, and this is called the integrated judiciary system. Hope you are getting the point. Now we shall see one case here, that how judiciary is really playing its role and how far it is means perfect in its performance, that we shall find out. It is the case of Laxman Kumar case. Laxman Kumar case, and how did the judiciary handle the matter, that we shall find out. Actually, in February 1980, Laxman Kumar Lakshman Kumar, a person, married to Sudha Goel. Sudha Goel. When? In February 1980. Then in the same year, December 1980, Sudha was taken to the hospital and she died over there due to burns. Then there was a case filed against Lakshman Kumar and his family, because the Sudha's family knew that there must be some problem of Sudha there in the in her in-laws house, and they have got the information from her neighbors also that Sudha was being tortured frequently to bring more dowry. The girl when got married in February 1980, after that there was severe various types of clash and conflicts continued. She was tortured physically, mentally by her husband Lakshman Kumar, her mother-in-law Shakuntala Devi, and her brother-in-law Subhash and all. So the total family was involved in torturing Sudha Goel, who suffered for few months, and ultimately on 2nd December in the same year when she got married, that is 1980, she was taken to the hospital, but she died over there due to burns. Now the Sudha's family, Sudha's parents filed a case against Lakshman Kumar and her family. The case continued in the lower court, and ultimately it went to the High Court also, where it was claimed that Sudha actually died due to accident while she was boiling milk and suddenly caught fire and she died. But people were not satisfied with the judgment given by the High Court, because the neighbors, where Sudha got married in Lakshman Kumar's house, the neighbors knew the situation. They used to know the fact that Sudha was frequently tortured, physically and mentally both, to bring more and more dowry. And that way they came to know the final situation also. When they were called by the police and even in the court, they claimed that they heard the screaming of Sudha when she was burnt alive. Shakuntala Devi poured kerosene on her and Lakshman Kumar lit the fire on her, and ultimately she died. So this heinous activity proves that how dangerous the situation is. Now the High Court claimed that it was just an accidental case and she died over there. But then later on they realized that no, and there was huge protest, public protest. There was campaign, rallies, movements against this judgment given by the High Court. Then it has gone to the Supreme Court in the year 1985. 1985 the case was gone to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court heard all the evidences, they called the reports and everything for, and it is found that definitely there was some problem, and Lakshman Kumar, his mother Shakuntala Devi were caught, and there was trial, and ultimately it is found that really they were convicted and they got the lifetime imprisonment, prison for life. That was the judgment given by the Supreme Court. So now you can see the judgment which was going on in the lower court and even the High Court, where they got free, no judgment, no proper judgment was done. It was a clear case of dowry death which was not found properly by the High Court, but ultimately it was proved in the Supreme Court, and that way Sudha's family got the justice, though the girl died. So that way the judgment continued here. And earlier one case we have discussed, that is about the case of Hakim Sheikh, one member of the West Bengal Khet Muzur Union, the person who fell from the running train and got severely injured, and he went to the various government hospitals and failed to get proper treatment over there. Then there was case filed against the West Bengal government, and ultimately court demanded for the total compensation for which Hakim Sheikh was not getting the proper treatment in government hospitals. So that way judiciary plays the most important role for the establishment of democracy. So writing fundamental rights, and under this fundamental right, Article 21, that is right to life, which is the first and foremost one for us, must be ensured by the judiciary here. Now let us see what are the two divisions of judicial system prevails in our country. What are the two types of judicial system prevails in our country? We shall go through those part. Okay, different branches of legal system. Different branches of legal system. This one we must know, just not for studying in civics. Okay, for everybody's life this is important. We must know this. Okay, what are the two branches of the legal system? What are these called? This is called criminal law. One is called criminal law, and the other is called civil law. So what are the matters come under criminal law? Let us find out. Criminal law deals with theft, robbery or burglary or harassing for more dowry. So such matters come under the criminal law. Whenever there is any case of theft or robbery, burglary or harassing women to bring more dowry from her father's family. So all these matters come under the criminal law. Now what are the matters come under the civil law? In case of harmed rights of individuals regarding land disputes or tenants issues and all. So these are the matters come under the civil law. If anybody's right is harmed, it may be regarding purchase of land or the people those who are staying rental basis, tenant issues and all. So those matters will come under the civil laws. Now second we shall see how this criminal law initiates, criminal law, how it is implemented initially. The first one is, it begins with lodging an FIR. Criminal law, the implementation of criminal law begins with the lodging of FIR. You know about FIR, that is first information report. Whenever any crime is committed, the suffering person, of course, go to the nearest police station. You know that there is the area for a police station. Every region comes under a particular police station. That is called the area of the police station. So whenever the crime is committed, the person must go to the nearest police station to inform over there that whatever the crime has committed against him. That is called FIR, first information report. So on the basis of that FIR only the implementation of criminal law will start. Are you getting the point? But in case of civil law, there is no such matter of lodging FIR. Okay, in case of civil law, there is no such matter of lodging FIR. No need to lodge FIR in case of civil law. Then how it will start? Yes, of course, the legal procedure will start with the proper information to the court, that is a petition to be filed in the proper court, okay, before the relevant court. So a petition is enough. There is no question of lodging FIR in case of civil laws. So a petition has to be submitted to the relevant court wherever there is any conflict arises regarding the land issues, regarding the conflict regarding land or the tenant issues and all. So that way the criminal law, so criminal law starts with the lodging of the FIR, whereas the civil law, implementation of civil law starts with the application, okay, the information provided by the person who is suffering from any kind of discrimination, okay, to the relevant court. Now the third point of difference here, we shall find out here, that is, if found guilty, in case of criminal law, if found guilty means if the person is found he is involved in theft or burglary or murder or whatever cases, or harassing women for more dowry, if the person is found involved in any of these such matters, then of course the accused here means the person who is involved in such cases, accused can be sent to jail, if it is found that the accused person is involved with any kind of criminal activities, then of course the court can punish him, providing that yes, all the evidences and proofs are true against him, then definitely there can be imprisonment, the punishment of imprisonment for the accused person. And there is specific relief can be asked for the tenant, or if there is any conflict between the house owner and the tenant, then the court may tell the tenant to vacate the room, vacate the house, okay, evacuate the house, or they may ask for fulfilling the demand made by the house owner, okay, means to pay the rent and all, okay. So paying rent can be one of the judgment given by the civil courts, okay. So such matters are the basic differences between the civil laws and criminal laws. So what are the differences we have found here? The criminal laws come under the situation whenever there is any case of theft or burglary or robbery or murder or harassing women for more dowry. So such cases come under the criminal laws. And what are the matters come under the civil law that we have found? Those matters which are involved with the land disputes, the purchasing of land or any other disputes regarding land, distribution of land. Then there may be issues like the house owner and the tenant issues. Hope you are getting the point. So those matters come under the civil law. The second difference we have found, the lodging of FIR is must for the implementation of criminal law. The criminal justice system starts with the lodging of an FIR by the person who is suffering from any kind of discrimination. When a girl is being tortured physically or mentally by the in-laws house, that girl or the girl's family can lodge an FIR to the court, to the police station, and accordingly the procedure of the criminal court can start. Criminal law, the implementation of criminal law can start with the lodging of the FIR. Whereas in case of civil matters, the activities of the civil laws, implementation of civil law start with the just information, application by the person who is being discriminated to the relevant court in the relevant court, he may just submit a petition for the justice, for the provision of justice. That is the second difference we have found. Then what is the third difference we have found? If found guilty, the person, the accused person, if the evidences, proofs and everything are against him, that yes, the person is really involved in these criminal activities, then court may give the punishment of imprisonment. Sometimes it can be lifetime imprisonment also. But in case of civil matters, civil courts do not deal with such harsh punishment and all. There can be just the recovery, the compensation. There can be, the court may ask for the paying for the compensation. Suppose the tenants do not pay the rent to the house owner, then the court may ask for paying the rents and all, or may ask to evacuate the house. So that is the punishment, given by the civil courts. So this is the basic difference we have found here. The last part of this chapter deals with, do all the people can access justice? It may, sometimes you may find out that some influential people in the society, either they are financially established in the society or socially dominating position they are having. In that case, they may not take care of the laws properly. They may not, the court may not go against them. Sometimes it may happen like that. So that's why it is very important that judiciary should play the role impartially. You may heard about PIL, public interest litigation. Of course you have heard. The mid-day meal scheme actually was introduced due to the introduction of PIL, because it was found that there was enough food grains stored in the government godowns, whereas there was food crisis in the market. There was in the general situation there was food crisis. So that's why there was lodging of PIL, that is public interest litigation, and ultimately the government, the court instructed the government to introduce the mid-day meal scheme, so that the children can at least get 2 square meal. So that way it is always implemented that the judiciary system must work according to the establishment of law. They will try to establish the rule of law here, and of course provide justice to each and every one. That's why this system is very important. So we are concluding the chapter today. We have discussed about the role of law, the role of the judiciary here we have found. So very important 3 role performed by the judiciary. What are those? That is about the judicial review. We have discussed about the judicial review. What is judicial review? There can be a question on this. What do you mean by judicial review? Means whenever there is any kind of clash or any kind of discrimination found regarding the basic structure of the constitution, if any law made by the central legislature which goes against the basic structure of the constitution, then the Supreme Court may bring prohibition against that. So that is judicial review. It's a very important question from this part. Then dispute resolution is another important responsibility of the judiciary. Then upholding the laws and enforcing fundamental rights is the third important responsibility of the judiciary. Those we have discussed. Then we have seen the basic structure of the court system in our country. We have found the differences between criminal law and the civil laws here. So these are some very, very important questions you can prepare. What are the differences between civil laws and criminal laws? You can prepare the answers, and hope it will be helpful for your exam preparation also. That's all for today. We shall wind up the chapter now. Thank you for watching.